morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, hello again, good morning again. I don't know when you're listening to this show, but it's your boy, the Nonprofit Sector Connector. If you're listening live, well, it is 10 a.m. on a Friday Eastern Time, and this show is called Philanthropy and Focus. And I will tell you something before we even get into the very important conversation we're going to have today. I'm going to tell you something to inspire you all to do things in life that you want to do. Today represents 98 episodes of something that was just an idea in my mind. It was just an idea where I said I want to create a platform where nonprofit leaders can come on and do two very important things: tell their story, and I want to help them do that, and help them amplify their message. That's what I'm trying to do. These messages are incredibly important. These nonprofits are incredibly important. There are so many challenges and issues and opportunities to develop and create new things in the world from a nonprofit perspective, and those are who are the people who do it on the front lines, the nonprofit leaders, and of course their teams. Their teams represent volunteers, their teams represent board members, their teams represent employees, depending on the organization. But it's from the leadership down that these important missions are taken care of. And without nonprofit leaders and their teams, these things don't get done. So it's my job to do these two things each week with you: is help these organizations tell their stories and amplify their message. I love those dramatic pauses that your boy Tommy D uses, because it just lets you know these are important things I'm saying. Like when I say things like this: I'm your boy, the Nonprofit Sector Connector. That's what you got to know about. That's what it's about. It's all about connections, because all of us as human beings, as a species, need to be with each other, need to connect with each other, need to support each other. Speaking of support, second ever episode of this show was Transitional Services for New York, TSINY. My friend Dr. Larry Grubler, second ever episode here. And he said, you know what, Tommy D? We all need support at different times. And I think that's critically important to think about. And I think it's a critical, important thing to think about specifically to the conversation we're going to have today. So before we even dive into the conversation, I want to welcome someone who has become a friend, an inspiration. I did a video earlier this week and sort of talked about how you may not know somebody for the longest time, but there's a connection, there's some deeper connection and relationship that happens, even if it's a short relationship. And it's an alignment of mission, it's an alignment of just fundamental ways of being. Linda Beagle Shulman, my friend, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on again.
I'm so jazzed you're here. And I want to tell you the truth. It's actually somebody who's worked with me on the creative side, my friend Cecia, who was the one who said, you know what, Tommy, I'm seeing what Linda is doing, and I want to suggest to you it makes sense to round out 2022 with having Linda come back on the show. So shout out to Cecia for doing that, for thinking of that, seeing that vision. So it ain't just about me. It's about the people around us that see these things. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and Cecia, thank you so much.
Perfect. Awesome. Very cool. All right, let's just do this. I mean, if somebody does not know who Linda Beagle Shulman is and is not familiar with the Scott J. Beagle Memorial Fund, well, I'm going to set the stage. Don't feel bad that you don't know, because after this show you're going to know and you're going to have the opportunity to make an impact. I'm going to read some basic stuff here just so we can set that stage. Linda and I have a lot to cover. We're going to talk about what's gone on with the organization, how there's been some changes, the impact that the organization's made. We're definitely going to talk about some legislative work, which we'll get into. I mean, look, I tell you guys this all the time. Nothing inspires me more than nonprofit, and nothing inspires me more than that, although that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The most inspiring part of nonprofit are these organizations where somebody takes something tragic in their lives and then turns that into their mission, what they're going to do and how they're going to change the world. And that is certainly an appropriate commentary with Linda and this organization. The Scott J. Beagle Memorial Fund was established in the wake of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, which occurred on February 14th, 2018. Scott was the geography teacher and cross-country coach who went against active shooter protocol by opening the door of his classroom to allow the students in the hallway into a safe place away from the shooter. Tragically, while Scott was doing this was honorably protecting these children, Scott lost his own life by coming in contact with the shooter. And Linda, my condolences. We've talked about it. I don't want to go too deep into that part of the story unless you want to talk much about that particular day. We did cover that on the last program. But I would love for you just to say some words on what the organizational impact now is in the result of. We're going to talk legislative. I promise that. But let's talk. I mean, if I'm looking at $283,600 was sent to sent 212 children away to sleepaway camp in 2022. We're going to talk about the timeline of the organization, but tell me just about the impact that the organization has made so far in 2022.
It's pretty amazing. We have 6 camps. We have, like you said, we sent 212 children to summer sleepaway camp. And these children, they were at risk, underserved. When I say touched by gun violence, I ask the question, who hasn't been touched by gun violence today? Any child who's going to school has been touched by gun violence. They still have to do lockdown drills and, all the protocols for safe schools. But these children go to camp and we send them at the ages of 7 and 8. It's not a one-off. We send them from the age of 7 and 8 all the way through to when they're 16, and they can become counselors in training, CITs, and pay it forward. These children have never been in a lake. Okay, never been in a lake. Most of them do not, if not 98%, don't know how to swim. They get swimming lessons. They've never seen a horse, let alone do horseback riding.
Right.
They cultivate gardens. They learn how to interact with, whether it's chickens and ducks and pigs, and it's just, they get to be kids. They leave the world, the cement world behind, and more important, they leave behind the temptation of guns and gangs. They go up to camp and they just get to be kids. They learn how to trust. They learn how to interact. They make new friends. And year after year, this is going to be the 5th summer. Year after year, they go back and they see those friends that they had made years prior. For me, I go and visit all the camps every summer. That's like that's like my prize. I mean, it's really a very selfish thing. We send these children to camp, but what I get out of it when I'm up at camp, and Tommy, I'm taking you up to camp with me.
No, as you're saying it, I'm like saying, when will she stop talking so I could say, I'm going with you to camp? We have to make it happen this summer. I mean, I'm already seeing myself driving up to the camps, because we'll do some live stuff up there, depending on how far off the beaten path the camp is, if we can get a Wi-Fi signal. But if not, we'll just record some videos. And because, having been, sorry to take the microphone away from you, having been at your gala earlier this year, and I was looking through pictures, which we're just gonna have a conversation like you and me are having coffee, apparently, because that's what we're doing here. But I have this photograph of me in my pink linen suit, first time you and I have ever met, and as soon as we, big hug. But like, I'm standing in front of the Carnivegas type sign. Give me the name of it. I just took a picture of the gala event.
Remembering Scott.
Remembering Scott. Thank you. And it's like, it says Remembering Scott, and it's like flashy. It's like Hollywood, like walking the red carpet. I was going to text you later on. That picture is so great, not just because it's me, but I think I look particularly good in that pink linen suit with the dark hair and the whole thing, and hair down, the whole deal. But what a special event it was. It was a great event, hanging out, meeting people outside, and then it was the opportunity when there was a handful of politicians in the room granting some checks to the organization. Michael Dowling from Northwell, who was your honoree, Northwell Health out here on Long Island. Michael was there, and Northwell certainly brought a nice size check. But the fun part about it was I watched you take those checks and put them on the side, because you had your own checks, your own big checks that you were giving out. And I was able to meet some of the folks from these camps who were the recipients of the dollars that are generated. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to go to camp. I have to go. I have to be there. So yes, we will figure it out, but maybe we make it like a cool show where it's like, like, I don't know if you remember these silly movies, Ernest Goes to Camp. Maybe Tommy D Goes to Camp. Like do like me packing up. Like, my son actually is away right now. They do one of these. They left Wednesday morning. He'll be home in a couple hours. They do this go away to like camp upstate or in Connecticut or wherever they do these things. Similar, just for a couple days, team building. He's in the 6th grade, so as you're explaining that camp experience, I'm remembering it. What I want to ask you before we go any further is, because I don't think people who are not in the know about this organization or about you or about Scott understand the connection of camp to the mission. So can you just bring us back to that, to Scott and camp?
Well, when Scott was 6 years old, he saw that his sister went to sleepaway camp for the first time. She's like 2 years and 9 months older than him. And he saw we were so excited, all the buildup, everything we did for her, making it so special. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, I'm going to camp next year. And he was 6. And my father said to me, don't take that deposit at a day camp. He'll never get on the bus. And when he was 7, he got on that bus and went to camp and never looked back. Yeah. And Scott went to camp from the time he was 7 years old. He was the youngest camper at sleepaway camp. He went all the way through till he was murdered. He went for 28 years. He actually went into teaching, Tommy, so he could go back to camp year after year, because you can't quit your job and then get a new one.
Right. Well, how long is camp? 6, 7 weeks in the summer, something like that?
At the time that Scott went to camp, it was 8 weeks of camp.
8 weeks. So my buddy, I say my buddy, it's my son's like best buddy, but he's become like family to us, and Lucas, he goes away to camp. And I tell you, our two families get together, right? But I'm getting emotional. The two families get together before Lucas goes away to camp because he's like family, and it's a big deal. And then he's gone, and we're like, where is this kid? We know where he is, but that's a heck of a commitment at 7 years old to step away from everything to go to camp. I mean, I'll tell you, my guy who is now 11, who I was talking about, who's away, he was anxious to go away for 2 days. Forget about 8 weeks, right? So it's a big thing, but I imagine the growth and the connection and the community that comes out of that. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, remind me, 2 of Scott's closest, if not best friends, who are involved in the organization, I think they're involved with the run. Did they meet at camp, the 3 of them?
Yes, they met at camp. Jason went to camp with Scott when Scott was 7. They met at camp. They're lifelong friends. They'll be friends, forever and ever. And the children that go to camp, they can just be whoever they want to be. They don't have to worry about the rules, the regulations, anything, from home. There's no parents telling them what to do. There's their counselors telling them what to do. And it's a different environment. I don't know. When kids leave home, they're usually much more behaved at somebody else's house. Somebody said, oh, your son, he's so amazing. And I think to myself, you're talking about my son. At home, they're different. Yeah. But he went away and that was his passion. And he just became who he was. And he's like a legend at the camp he went to. And so we decided that we would take that, and we wanted to do something. Excuse my dog's barking.
That's okay.
We wanted to make sure that we did something in Scott's honor that would make sense to him. And so what we did was we decided that we would send children to camp because that's what he loved. And we did. We decided that we would send children to camp that couldn't otherwise go to camp. And our mission is, education and legislation. So our mission was to take these youngsters while they're young, get them out of that environment, show them that there's another way, and give them hope and make them understand that if they stay out of trouble, instead of rehabilitating those that come out of being incarcerated, we decided that we would not do that. We would just give them the opportunity to grow and to flourish and to have just a great summer.
I think I'm going to create a new word, unless it's out there, and I'm sure somebody will fact check me. But what about prehabilitating? I don't know if that's really a word or not, but you're saying that instead of going back and trying to fix and recreate, why not just get the education out right up front? And I got to make a quick shout out to a couple organizations that are doing the work once youngsters unfortunately do get in trouble. Avenues for Justice out of the Lower East Side, my friend Angel Rodriguez. Young New Yorkers, newer friend of mine, Bobby Brown, who runs that organization, first executive director after the founder had moved on to some different projects. But these are organizations that are doing alternative to incarceration work, because let's just put it as it is, gang, because if you're not with me right now and you don't understand that structurally things are set up differently and different people have different experience based on race, based on where they grow up, based on socioeconomic situation, and all of those things are bundled into one in a lot of ways, well then I think you're not paying attention. And I'm not trying to make this a political show, because it's not a political show, but I will say this: the way things have been set up are set up structurally for certain pockets of society to end up in situations that other people don't end up in. Point blank, I'm not looking for any feedback from anybody on it. I'm just making a statement from one man in an attic, and that's what's going. That's what I know. That being said, I think it's organizations that, like Linda's organization, that can make an impact change early on for these people and these young people and give them opportunities, and we change as a society the results and the outcomes based on some of this stuff. Linda, we do have to take a break. Do you have a quick comment on anything before we split to a
Yeah,
break?
I just wanted you to know that we take children from Family Service League, homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters, single parent homes. I mean, we make an impact on these children. They do not want to leave camp, and their last words to me when I'm leaving after my visit is, Miss Linda, are you going to send me back next year? I mean, that's what it's all about.
So here's my call to action for all you folks out there. This organization raised $283,600, and that equated to getting 212 campers out there. My plea, my expectation from folks is when we say, how can we help? Well, here's how you can help. Be part of the change, be part of the solution. You will go to the website, which Mick Collins already put up on Facebook. But if you're not listening on Facebook, Linda, shout out the website real quick.
Scott J. Beagle Memorial Fund.org.
ScottJBeagleMemorialFund.org.
Actually, it's sjbmf.org. It's much easier that way.
Easier that way. It sure is. SJBMF.org. I see it behind you. Shift to this side 1 sec. The other side. The other way. The other way. There it is. SJBMF.org. You don't have to sit like that the whole time. Come back to the middle. All right, gang. We're going to take a quick break. We got to split to a break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Linda Beagle Shulman, Tommy D, Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Thank you, Uncle Brendan Levy, for writing that song with me and for singing it. What a great song. The only song in the history of songs that represents a guy doing a radio show in an attic. The only one that's ever. Maybe there'll be more in the future, but I'm pretty sure that's the only one. Now, this is Philanthropy and Focus, and I am your boy, Tommy D. All right, so I want to run down a timeline real quick, Linda, and just to kind of, I'm going to use the word accolade and acknowledgement of some of the accomplishments that this organization has had. And then I have a question for you, which is really a question that you said we should think about talking about on the show. So I'm going to use it right in a couple seconds here. So Linda's background is Linda is an educator. She's a teacher. She had taught in Arizona. She had taught abroad. And she, as I said earlier in the show, leaders are sometimes thrust into opportunity, and there's something that needs to be done. And within weeks of Scott's murder, Linda was instrumental in the passage of the red flag law in Florida. She flew down to Tallahassee to speak before both the Florida Senate Appropriations Committee and the Florida House Appropriations Committee, and also met various Florida state legislators to help ensure the passage of these laws. Linda then took that experience, excuse me, and brought that back up here to New York, which we can talk about in a minute here, to address red flag laws. She's been down to the White House. She's been all over media telling this story about responsible gun safety. Linda has shared with me, I know she shared it live on the show last time, and when we talk, I always bring it back up. I said this is not a political show because we the people have answers. We the people can make an impact. It's not about just what politicians say, and it doesn't have to be about party lines. And Linda will be the first one to say it, and if I ever stop talking, she'll say it. But she doesn't want to take anybody's guns away. She doesn't want your guns, man. This is about, and we've shared also on the show in the past that allies of yours and the organization, Linda, are gun people, are people who, right? So what we're talking about, folks, is responsible gun safety. And why? And I'm just going to put it out there, and I did a video earlier this week, and I'm going to say it because my friend Linda told me that she doesn't want me to be afraid and be scared from my children when they're out in the world and when they go to school, because she's in a club that she wants no more members to join that club. So Linda, can we talk about just the experience in legislation so far and what you see on the horizon?
Yes, I think that, universal background checks, federal red flag laws, and a federal assault weapons ban are very, very important. But Tommy, we talked a little bit about it. I guess my brain works all the time about what can we do, what can we do, what can we do? Because it's so common sense. Everybody has the right to be safe and wants the right to be safe. Everybody wants the right to live without fear. We have the cure. We have the cure. They have been looking for years and years and years for the cure for cancer, okay? They don't have the cure, so they cannot cure cancer. They're still looking for the cure. Why are we looking for the cure to get rid of the gun epidemic? Why are we looking for we have it. We don't have to look. It's you, me, everybody on the show that's watching the show, that's tuning in. We have the cure. All we have to do is keep talking, keep pushing our politicians, our elected officials. I mean, I call them elected officials because politicians have such a yuck connotation. But, we have to just keep pushing. It doesn't matter, what organization wants to fight us. We just have to keep pushing. Gun manufacturers, those on the NRA who want to fight us, who it's all about money. We have the cure. We can push. We can get it done. I mean, they did it in the tobacco industry. You know that. Yeah. We pushed. And look what's happening. We have it. We need to use it.
I wonder this, and I don't want to get too far out into this, but I always feel, and I'm very big on the mental health conversation, I think it's critically important, but I feel like, the reasoning or the excuse is, it's not about access to guns, it's a mental health issue, right? And what do you have on that?
I mean, it's so interrelated. Right. Let's face it, anybody who, let's say, has a mental health issue and goes to commit suicide, okay, with a gun. Well, if they don't have a gun, they can't commit suicide with a gun. I mean, there's ways to commit suicide, but we hear all about people taking a gun and committing suicide. If they don't have a gun, they can't do it. We're not looking to take away guns. I don't want to take away guns. I say it all the time. Even when I speak in public and there are gun owners there, at the end, we have a conversation and they agree. They agree. People should have background checks. They should do safe storage. They should have a license. The gun should not be a ghost gun. I have to tell you, Tommy, I think that, how we have to have insurance on a car when we own a car? Maybe we should have insurance on a gun when we own a gun.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Linda, look, it takes people to come up with these ideas. And you remember when we were kids and they said, there's no stupid questions, there's no stupid ideas, it took me to be a certain point in my life to realize I'm just going to ask a question if I don't know the answer and not care, because I could sit here and pretend like I know stuff, but then I realize the older I get, I know very little. So then I just go, I don't know, I don't get it. Please share with me. So yeah, maybe that is the answer. Here's the thing. What is the answer is putting a whole bunch of answers on the table, on the whiteboard, in a whatever, right, in the forum, whatever that forum is, and solving for this problem. Because I didn't do the research on, other countries on this globe, but I do know the work. I do know the fact that this doesn't go on in other places. And I'm not going to beat up the founding fathers, and the amendments and whatnot, but because I'm not educated enough to have that dialogue. But what I'm going to say is, why doesn't this go on in other places? Why other societies on this planet, this type of behavior doesn't happen? I don't know if you have an answer. I don't know if there is an answer that we're going to solve right now. But the point is, it doesn't happen in other places. It may happen some other places, but most places this does not go on. For some reason, it goes on in this country.
People won't have it. In other countries, all you hear people from other countries saying, I can't believe it. I can't believe what you do in America.
Shocked.
I can't believe it.
They're shocked. Right.
People won't have it. They say, we don't have that problem. We don't have, people with owning guns, illegally owning guns. People own guns in other countries.
Right. So I want to talk about what you see as a future opportunity for people to get involved. How do they get involved? Certainly you have the runs and things that we could talk about support in that regard, but how do we get involved with being part of the solution to this problem? What, in your experience as someone who is on the, out there in these conversations, you have some level of access to these elected officials, as you say, how can somebody like me, a father of four, a concerned citizen, maybe I got a bit of influence, maybe some people listen to what I'm talking about, how can I and then the people around me be part of this solution, be part of the change, and if not even that far, just be part of the conversation?
Listen, I'll get, Glen Cove, okay, the little town of Glen Cove, they had a bond issue up, they put up a bond issue, and the bond issue was getting new doors and new safety locks on these new doors. Everybody's like, this is never going to pass. This is never going to pass. And it's for our children. It's a little piece of the puzzle because it's a big puzzle, but we have to start with little pieces of the puzzle. So we spoke, we talked, we had conversations with people. They had town halls. And, everybody was like, it's never going to pass. It's never going to pass. You know what? We made sense. It was common sense. Okay, you want your kids safe. You don't want your schools to be a jail. This is just one little piece of the puzzle. And you know what? People listened and they had dialogue, and it wasn't a debate. It was a conversation. And people, let's say, and it's not political, but people with ideas all the way on one side, or all no's, and then people with all yeses, we had to come to the middle and have a conversation. Conversation's important. Do you know it passed?
Yeah, I know you told me it passed, and I'm very happy for that. But what is this thing you're talking about? I wrote it down. A conversation. What exactly is that? How do we do that?
If you are a political figure, okay, if you're a politician, it's never a conversation. It's a debate.
Right.
The minute you stand up to say whatever it is, it's going to be a debate because people really aren't listening. But there's such a thing as a conversation where somebody has an opinion and then another person has an opinion, and you literally discuss.
Wow.
Instead of walking away, never seeing each other again, which I know happens now with, when you have those political conversations, you have a discussion. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. You know what that is? And not to be funny about it, but that's just like maturity. That's a level of like where, and I know it in my own relationships, personal business and things like that. It's like as a person, as an individual, I sometimes go, well, I need to hold on. This has to be a discussion. This has to be a conversation, right? And that takes a level of maturity and to set aside our own agenda and what we need out of something for the greater good. And that's what I think we're talking about, whether it be this issue or the many, many other issues that are affecting this country and this planet, is if folks could just stop getting so caught up on it's my way or the highway, or this is the only way, or this is the right way and you're the wrong way. Well, that just sucks. Excuse me. I said I might get pissed off for greatness today before we were talking, but like, what do we? Come on, gang, let's get together. Not, it don't have to be a kumbaya type moment. Shout out to camps, right? But it don't have to be like, but maybe it actually could, because at the end of the day, until we solve these problems as a community, as a society, right? It's factions of people just cranky about getting what they want, right?
Tommy, the state gives, I'll talk about New York State, gave a lot of money, okay, for rehabilitating those who have been incarcerated. I was invited to sit in on a couple of those, gatherings where they had roundtables. And me, I want to send, disadvantaged at-risk children to sleepaway camp, listening. And I listened and I listened. And we went around the table and I heard what everybody had to say. And I really felt like a fish out of water. But when I actually got to speak, people listen. I explained that it's great to rehabilitate. It's great to have all that money. But I'd like to know why it's me or my organization or an organization similar, okay, that we can't get some of that state money. Why all that money is going to those who are incarcerated to rehabilitate them, to use your words. Why not get me some money so I can prehabilitate and I can send these kids to camp and you don't have to work, you don't have to pay the money after they get in trouble.
Right.
And you know what? The reason I bring it up is because we had a conversation there. They listened. They had no choice. I listened to all of them. It was my turn. But seriously, there was a conversation. And do you know that I have spoken to people from there since who have gotten me in touch with other people, like people who work for assemblymen and people who work for people in the Bronx and people in Queens and so on and so forth. They did listen. They heard. And that's how it works. And that's why I say, we have the cure.
I think that's a slogan right there. We have the cure. Like, we have the cure. We can fix this situation and excuse me, and evolve past it and be better off, be healthier, right? Because if you stay on that whole thing about the cure, we have it. We do have to take a quick break, but I gotta laugh with you and my friend Mick Collins, because apparently prehabilitation is already a word. Look, Mick, I didn't know. I'm not Webster over here. I'm trying, but I don't think the way they meant it in the dictionary, because he gives me this is my guy, Mick Collins. You got to meet him. You'll love him. But he gives me a definition. He pulls it right out of Webster, or maybe he just knew the definition. So prehabilitation is a word. He tells me preoperative rehabilitation, or prehab is a form of healthcare intervention that takes place before a medical or surgical intervention with the aim to reduce side effects. Well, guess what? Our aim is to reduce the side effects of these tragedies that happen by getting in front of them and making the change ahead of time. And that's what Linda's talking about. And that is a conversation that I don't know if we continue to have it today, but I want to continue to have it as long as I know you, Linda Beagle Shulman, because I got a big mouth. Some people are listening, and, let's go out on a campaign. When we're at camp, we're going to say, hey, look, we're at camp, but what about prehabilitation? We're here. This is prehabilitation. This is what we're doing. We're changing the world. Why? Because we have the cure. We have the cure. Hold that thought, because I know you got a lot to say. We got to take a quick break. Philanthropy and Focus. We'll be right back.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Supposed to do, join Tommy in his attic. You didn't know, everybody, that I was going to sing today, but apparently I am going to sing a little bit. I actually was somewhere a couple weeks ago. My friend Renee Daniel Flagler, who is the executive director of Girls Inc. of Long Island, which is actually the nonprofit that talkradio.nyc adopted this year. When I was at an event that Renee had, because Renee is an author, she's written 21 books, and she had an event, and I actually had grabbed a soda next door on my way out, and there was a little bit of like a flyer of somebody who teaches people how to sing. And I grabbed that flyer and I saw it as a sign, because I wasn't even supposed to be in that little restaurant that day, but so I have to call this person because I've decided I'm going to learn to be a singer, Linda Beagle Shulman, so it won't be so painful for people when I decide to just sing in the middle of a show. So I want to say this. What I want to ask you, Linda, I know you had something you want to talk about as well.
Good.
You good? All right. So I want to ask you this. I'm reading my notes, and it says that within days of this tragedy, this organization was created.
2 days.
Okay. Thank you. Where do you find that resolve, that fortitude, that courage to say, here's what we're going to do that fast?
I had a choice. I could mourn Scott's death or celebrate his life. And I chose to celebrate his life. And I chose to do what I thought he would be watching over, wanting me to do. And the only thing that, and I chuckle, you'll laugh too, you'll understand knowing me. People say to me, Scott is probably so proud of you. And I've worked very hard on my inner monologue, and I smile and I say, thank you, probably. But inside of me, my inner monologue is, he's so angry, you have no idea, because you made our lives so public, and we were really very private people. But in making it public and in celebrating his life is how we get things done. And I know that whatever I do, almost everything I do, he's doing with me. Maybe some of the things not happy about, but that's what we do.
All right, so I got to be honest, because I'm a big mush and I'm very sensitive, and the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up because I went to put on a shirt and tie because my oldest daughter said to me, Dad, you used to do Philanthropy and Focus, you used to wear a shirt and tie, you should start doing that again. So I'm grabbing through my dresser, and as I reach in to grab something, this is the t-shirt. I'm going to cry. This is a t-shirt that ended up coming out, and I'll just show you. Can you see the picture, Linda?
Yes, remembering Scott, that's our big gala.
So, and then I have this on my desk right here. The picture with the hat and the shades. And, I don't know much about, what happens after all this, and I don't know much about the future and things like that. But I feel like we're connected on different levels, and I was meant to meet you and meant to wear this shirt. And if it wasn't for, how we connected, you probably remember this, but a friend of ours, Greg Levine, had reached out to me, and who's become more of a friend of late.
But Tommy, our connection was like this.
Yeah, well,
like that.
It didn't take long. No. So my gratitude to Greg for that connection, because, I've often been the bridge, the liaison, and then got out of the way and never had anything to do at times. Not that Greg doesn't have anything to do with either of us, but at times in my world, been able to just like, it happens. And I see that, and Greg saw this as an opportunity. And actually, to tell you the truth, Greg invited me as a guest of his and his dad's and the family to your event, to the gala. So all that to just say that I'm inspired by you. I know you're probably not going to like this word I'm going to use, but you're a hero. You're an incredible change maker. And I believe, this is unprepared, but I believe, a life well lived is a life of impact, a life of change, a life of legacy. And I think that's certainly what you're creating through this organization, what you're creating as Scott's legacy. But honestly, Linda, I don't want to get you emotional, but I think it's your legacy as well. So how can we continue to be part of that, to give you and the organization kind of that boost, that shot in the arm that it needs to keep on moving, and we want to be part of it? And how do I get, personally, my young people in my world involved with it, and how do we continue to educate people? What do you see as, like, if you have to project 5 years into your mind's eye and say, what is this organization about? Then not so much what it's about, but what is it doing? How many campers are going away each summer? How many, $283,600, an incredible amount of money raised. But I know that when that's $1 million a year, right? And that's sending 1,000 campers away, right? And then it's 2 million and 2,000 campers away. What does that look like in your mind's eye?
I listen, I'm going to continue to send those same campers that we sent this year. Okay, those 212 campers will go next year, and we want to add to it. We're actually adding a camp in Florida. We've been asked to add a camp in Florida because originally I thought, I have amazing expectations. So originally it was like, I'm going to start this organization. I'm going to make sure that I have a camp in every state and so on and so forth. And I remember sitting at a fundraiser, and this gentleman was sitting next to me, and this was quite a while ago, because today, like you counting your shows, I count the days that it's been since I've spoken to Scott. So today it was 1,780 days since I last spoke to Scott. And that being said, I sat at this table, and this gentleman sitting next to me, and he saw my wristband, okay, which I know you have one too.
I do.
He said to me, I know all about the tragedy and about your son. What are you doing? And he asked me about the wristband. I told him, and I'll make it short because I know a lot of time, but I said to him, I'm going to send underserved, at-risk children to summer sleepaway camp. And he looked at me and said, how are you going to do that? And I said, I have no idea.
I love it.
I have no idea. That being said, it was Jay Jacobs, who's an amazing, amazing friend. He said to me, call me next week. I had no idea who Jay Jacobs was.
Okay.
I didn't know how anybody.
I don't know who he is now. So who is he?
Jacobs is the he's the head of the Nassau County Democratic Party. Okay, he's amazing. And I didn't know, I had no idea who he was. Uh-huh. And he said to me, call me on Wednesday. And he also owns a camp. Jay Jacobs is more about camp than he is about anything else. I'm telling you, there are so many stories.
Where did you run into him? Where were you sitting next to each other? What was the event? What was the function?
It was an event at the time, Governor Cuomo had an event. And I was invited and sitting at this head table, not knowing anyone and not even knowing why. But it was because we had just done all the work for the red flag law. So anyway, so Jay said to me, come speak to me. Long story very short, here I am now. First year we sent 54 campers, second year 165. We had the pandemic and we sent out 400 packets so we could do a virtual camp at one of our camps. And this past year, 212. I just had this conversation with my husband about reality, about projecting a number. Mike said, next year I want to send 300. I'm like, Mike, that's like, we would have to raise $400 and some odd $1,000. I said, why don't we make the goal 250, raise $375,000, and say that we surpassed our goal instead of we didn't make our goal. And that's my, but to me, it's not about how many camps, it's about how many children we send to camp. So that being said, it's $1,500 to send a child to camp. But I'm not saying to somebody, send me $1,500. I'm saying, you know what, make a $10 donation so I can buy or a $15, $20 donation, so I can get toothbrushes, which I do hit up every dentist I know for toothbrushes.
Really? Toothbrushes, okay.
Toothbrushes. Send, so that I can send them with underwear. These kids go to camp, many of them with nothing. So, shoes, socks is a big thing. I mean, any amount helps. You take a lot of little amounts of money, donations, excuse me, I'm sorry. You send a lot of little donations add up to big donations.
100%.
And it doesn't matter. And so when we get money in and, we'll get a check and Michael say to me, oh, we got a check for X. In my mind, it's, oh my God, you know what? We have we could send half a camper. Oh, this is great. It's a matter of how many campers. So to me, how you can help.
Yeah.
Come to the Run for Beagles. We had a Run for Beagle. It was Scott's 40th birthday. Actually, his 40th.
I was there and I put pictures out. I brought my daughter and that was a really special experience. We have one more segment. Let's take a break now. You come back, we promote I want to hear about the run. I know there's a run down in Florida as well. And certainly the gala. I know there's an upcoming gala. So let's bring the show to a close with all that upcoming information. We'll take we got to pay some bills, as they say in the radio business. So we got to take a little commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
That's right. Cut through the static and join me in my attic. But don't literally show up at my house, gang. I mean, just virtually join me in my attic. You know what I mean? I don't have enough room up here in the attic for everybody to come here for the show. But maybe one day we'll have a real attic where everybody can come to that show. All right, stop, Tommy. You're being silly. All right. Recognized in 2020 as a town of Huntington, New York, women of distinction, or a woman of distinction, on behalf of her work with this organization, the Scott J. Beagle Memorial Fund, is my friend Linda Beagle Shulman. And we're going to have the lightning round, what I like to call this part of the show, Linda. I want to leave everything out on the field. I don't know what just happened to me when I said that. And can you tell me what happened when Scott was, when the track team wasn't running so fast, and they would lose? Can you set that story up real quick? It takes 30 seconds, but set that one up for me.
Scott had very, very dry, sarcastic humor. Okay. And he had his cross country team and they were running, they were in a meet, they were competing. They had to get a certain amount of points in this meet so they could go to state. And it was very important to them. And so they ran, they did the race, and they missed by just a few points. They needed maybe 1 or 2 points. I'm not real good at that, but anyway, so the captain went up to Scott, the team went up to Scott, and they said, Coach, they were devastated, tears. What can we do? What do we have to do? And he looked at them and he went, just run faster. So Just Run Faster was their motto. It's on every shirt sleeve, that anything that they do, it's Just Run Faster. And that was Scott.
Yeah. So that's actually, I hadn't realized it, but that's a good setup to talk about the run that was here on Long Island a couple months back, the run that is going to be an annual. It is an annual, right? And the run that you do also down in Florida. And then let's talk about, upcoming galas and other events as well, because that's how people can get connected and find out.
Sure. Well, the Run for Beagle, we just had at Hatcher State Park, like we said, and our runs now, you can be in person or virtual. And it's easy. Virtual is fun. You could do it by yourself. You can do it however you want. At one time it was raining. I remember I was silly enough to say, oh, I'm going to do it virtually one day during the pandemic every day. I almost died at the end of the week. But I mean, you can do it virtually. You can do it on a treadmill, however you want. We have a Run for Beagle coming up March 5th in Parkland, Florida. That's also annual, virtual, or you can be in person. We also have Remembering Scott, which is our big gala. Quickly, the way we did Remembering Scott was, when you're invited to a fundraiser, half the time, can I just send my money and not go? They're so boring. You sit there,
Yeah.
We decided that we would make it all interactive. You saw it, Tommy.
I did. It was cool.
There was no sitting down, being bored, doing anything. We had Carnival, we had Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I took a theme from Scott's bar mitzvah, and we redid the theme, and everybody really had a blast. It was a lot of fun. We're also adding, it's going to be called Buckets for Beagle. One of my friend's sons said he wanted to get involved. We made him the youth coordinator. He's getting camps together, sleepaway camps together, and they're going to, Jay has offered his day camp basketball, I think it's indoor basketball. Actually, he's offered that, and they're going to have a competition, and they're going to get the youth involved. So
how old is this young man?
Everybody can be part of Team Beagle.
How old is this young man that your friend's son that's going to do this?
16. When he was 13, he did a project. Well, he was turning 13. He did a project. One of his projects that he had to do for being bar mitzvah, he did a project for Scott, in honor of Scott. And he's worked with Team Beagle ever since. He's volunteered, and he just called us up and he said, I want to do more. And it's great. And he's learning. I mean, he's really learning how to organize and what he has to do. And it's definitely, it's out for our advantage as well as his.
Well, we don't have to call him out by name, but young man.
Yes, I'll call him out by name. His name is Brian Cohn. Not Brian, I'm sorry, Matthew Cohn.
Okay.
Brian's dad, Matthew Cohn, and he is an amazing young man.
Matthew, you're an inspiration. Your father is an inspiration for Brian. I don't know you, I don't know Matthew, but you're an inspiration. I look forward to connecting with you both. So listen, folks, if you have a bat mitzvah coming up, a bar mitzvah coming up, if you're getting confirmed, if you just want to make an impact, get involved with an organization. I'm looking on my other screen here, Linda. Like I told you, I watch us on Facebook a little bit so I can see who's checking in. My young friend Andrew here in our neighborhood, who lost his dad to pancreatic cancer, did his bar mitzvah project to support. I'm looking at you, Paul Rubin. My buddy Paul Rubin is checking in from Camp Good Morning, and it's inspiring to see these young people doing this special work. And I think that was for an organization, Project Purple, who I'm friends with out of Connecticut. My friend Dino Borelli founded that. I can't stop. It's this organization connects to that organization, and on and on and on. But it's the work of these young people. You don't have to be 45 years old to make an impact. You could be 5 years old. How many of these stories that we hear of these young people wanting to make an impact? And when I know this, and this ain't about me, but I will tell you, when my 7-year-old son says to me, "Hey, Dad, I want to go do another day of service." What? Like, where does that, like, that's, I talk about a life well lived. Listen, if I don't make any more impact or anything like that, if these 4 kids now see the world better and they want to be of service, then I think my, much of the work I needed to do is here. But it was, that's, yes, Linda.
So let's everybody on this, on this show right now, let's make an impact. Okay. Let's make sure that everybody stays safe. Let's everybody make an impact, and it doesn't have to be donating. Just make sure, okay, that our voices keep being heard. Let's make sure that we can stay safe, whatever it is that we have to do.
I'm all in. I want to be with you on this thing. It's a mission. I want to be with you, and when we can look back and go, remember when that was actually a problem, that we fixed that problem? Remember when that was a thing? Like, just so incredible. Got to give some shout outs. Certainly Paul Rubin checking in, Mick Collins checking in, Corinne Graham, I saw you check in during the show a little bit as well. Linda, I'm inspired by you. I feel love and gratitude for everything you and this organization is doing. And
As we do for you, Tommy,
well,
because I could not get my voice out there unless you let me.
well, listen, this is my job, man. It's my mission to do this. So that's just how it's going to be. And I said to you earlier, until this problem is solved, I don't care if we have to do a show once a month. Like, let's just get it happening. It's the Linda and Tommy show once again. Like, call that show Change Makers with Linda Beagle Shulman and Tommy D. I don't know. I mean, maybe, right?
I mean, will you put I have no problem putting my email address
Please,
up there.
shout it out there. Yep.
Okay, and anybody who wants to help, or anybody, that I can help. I mean, really, anybody that I can help, I can speak, I can do whatever I can do for anybody else to make sure nobody else is sitting in my shoes, okay, losing a loved one and have to go through being being brave or being this or being that. Anything I can do to help somebody else. It's not just about helping me.
Yeah, how do they get you? What's the email address?
Do it at Linda, Linda at sjbmf.org.
Linda at
sjbmf.org. I'm there for anybody to help to do anything I can.
See, she didn't say send me an email so you can make a donation. She said, let me know how I can help you all. Let me know. That's what leaders do. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work. One last thing I want to kind of just put a note out there is I decided that as a compliment to Philanthropy and Focus, I'm going to be doing bi-weekly interviews, and that will be called the In Focus Nonprofit Show. And I'm going to be interviewing subject matter experts, thought leaders to the sector, folks like Mick Collins, folks like Ken Serini. And next week on that show, December 16th, the In Focus Nonprofit Show will be my friend and compatriot, Christine Deska of Nonprofit Sector Strategies. So that will be live on Facebook. Just check out Philanthropy and Focus. Follow me everywhere, TommyD.NYC on Instagram and TikTok, which I barely use. But I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere, man. Linda, I appreciate you. Make it a great day. Thanks so much.
You too, Tommy. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.